How's it going? I'm Anthony, and these are stories of my life. For those of you who are just joining us that may have missed the last video, the reason I'm making these is kind of a therapeutic thing. I've taken a lot of head injuries over the course of my life during my time in the Marines, and now I'm dealing with some of the cognitive problems that come with it, and that includes memory problems. And so doctors have told me I should make videos like this, and one, so that there's kind of a record of the things that I've done for my family and friends and whoever else to look back on after I'm gone, but also to kind of help me with the recall process. I can look at these videos and that'll help me, bring things up, but also, and probably more importantly, is my friends or my family can look through these videos, or even the people that were involved in some of the events in these videos, and they can give me details that I otherwise couldn't recall, and maybe that might spawn some new activity, new memories, whatever else. But anyway, I'm sure you get the idea. So this particular memory would have occurred around 1983, 84-ish. I was probably 5-6 years old when this happened. I was still living at the house on Kathleen Street, at 2722 Kathleen Street. And so it's 3 years after the last one. The only memory I have really between the last video and this video is just kind of playing with some of my friends on the block. Across the street to the left was Eric Tomstead, and he had a big little brother named David Tomstead. I used to spend a lot of time hanging out with them. They were probably my two best friends that were there on the street. To the right of them was another buddy of mine named Matt Ferrone, and he's a really cool dude too. Family was great. He had an older brother. Mother and father were awesome. His mother passed away some years later from a kind of a freak car accident. And it was really sad because his mom was awesome, just a beautiful, wonderful woman. And it was sad because Matt's a good dude. Family's all good people, and it's unfortunate something like that had to happen to her. But such is life, I guess. To the right of them, a couple houses, was a kid by the name of Rasim Shatidya. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Could be wrong, but that's how I remember it. I didn't get to play with Rasim too much. I don't know if his parents were strict or what the deal was, but I didn't get to hang out with him a lot, but every now and then. And really the only memory I have of hanging out with all his friends was I can still kind of see Matt's house. I know we went swimming there a couple times. I can still kind of see Eric's house. I remember the back patio, but I don't remember anything we did back there. But I remember playing on our big wheels out in the cul-de-sac. And for those of you who don't know what a big wheel is, it's kind of like this little plastic tricycle-ish thing where you sit down on. It's got this giant wheel in the front. The pedals are on that wheel, and the handlebars like you're on some kind of motorcycle. And two big wheels in the back, or two fat ones, little small ones, but fat. The front one was a giant wheel. And you could pedal, and you could go in pretty good speed. I had this kind of a racing version, so to speak, that had a little more grip on the front. Had a little number one, and it was green, and it was fast. Like, I was the fastest kid on the block in it. Granted, anybody who rode it was the fastest kid on the block, so I had the fastest bike. But Eric had this Dukes of Hazzard one, and I liked his because he had this little handbrake thing on the back right wheel, and little yellow handbrake. You can lift that sucker up. You can spin out your little big wheel and do some cool things with it. And we eventually learned how to spin it out off a curb or spin it out into the grass and flip it, and that was always fun. But yeah, it's all the memories that I have in between that time frame, and so no actual events. So this would probably be the second actual event that I can remember in my life. And before I get into it, I got to give you a disclaimer. I am, at the time of making this video, 44 years old. I am absolutely well aware that I could have hallucinated this. I did watch Star Wars and Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica and all of that. So it could have been a hallucination. It could have been a dream that I had that somehow I've associated to being real life. I get it. I get it. Absolutely get it. It sounds nuts. But I remember this as being an actual event that occurred. And I can give you a lot of detail on it. And with that said, as far as detail goes, my dad always said that I had a photographic memory growing up. So much so that when I was in 4th grade, I had to take some kind of nationwide test for something, and I scored in the top 3-4% of the country on said test, to a point where one day I'm at school at Victoria Elementary in the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented Education Program or something. I don't remember. I think that was only 5th and 6th grade, but I don't know. I know I was in 5th and 6th grade in that program. But anyway, 4th grade, they called me into the office, and I get in there, and there's all these representatives from the school district there. And I thought I was in trouble. I thought I did something wrong. I was a bad kid anyway, so I probably had good reason to believe I was. But I get in there, my parents are in there, the district officials are in there, and they start talking to my parents about having me upgrade from 4th grade to high school. I said, what? And I was already a year ahead of what I was supposed to be anyway. But my parents eventually turned it down, figuring that I already had personality issues as it was. I'd probably just be worse off going into high school at such a young age. But, and it was because of my ability to recall things. Of course, that all went away after I joined the military. I started taking head injuries, but, that's how it goes. So, with that said, this particular memory, I told my dad about it after the fact, and he wouldn't believe me. It was the only time he didn't believe that I was remembering something correctly. So, here we go. So, once again, I'm 5, maybe 6 years old. I'm asleep in my bed. It's probably sometime after midnight-ish. My parents were asleep. And something wakes me up. And I wake up, and I just kind of, okay, I'm waking up. Whatever. And then as I get up and I start to gain more of an awareness of what's going on around me, all of a sudden I have this overwhelming sense of fear that consumes me. I have no idea what it is or why I feel it. It's just all of a sudden I'm instantly terrified. Something is not right. I'm looking around my room thinking somebody's in there, but there's nobody in my room. And I don't understand, but I'm just scared out of my freaking mind. And it's really the first time that I can remember feeling fear, that like my life was on the line, something was going to happen to me. And I realized that, okay, I need to be with my parents because my parents will protect me, so I want to get into their room. So I get up out of bed, and I go to walk over to the door. Now, if you walk out my door, as soon as you make a left, probably 3, 4, 5 feet to the left is my parents' door. So I figure it's not that far, I can get right to it. So I open up my door. As soon as I open my door, that feeling goes from fear to terror. And I feel like something is in my house, like something's going to eat me or something. And I shut the door. And I don't want to go out there. But I also don't want to be alone in my room either. So after a few minutes, I'm able to talk myself into maybe taking another look, see what I see. And I crack open the door, and I'm looking around, and everything in the house is dark. Parents are asleep, everybody's asleep. And there's a little bit of light coming in the windows. I'm listening. I don't hear anything. I don't see any movement. There's nothing going on, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can make it to my parents' door. So I step out into the house, and that feeling was just so much worse, to the point where I'm like sick to my stomach, and I can remember this clearly. Sick to my stomach, and I walk up to my parents' door, and I just want to get in there as fast as possible. So I open up the door, I turn the doorknob slowly because I don't want to wake my parents up. Turn the doorknob slowly, and I push open the door. And as soon as I open the door, I realize there's a ton of light coming in my parents' room. Now, when you walk into my parents' room, the master bed, I think it was like a king size, was sitting right there. As soon as you walk in the door's perfectly centered with the foot of the bed, and you're looking at the foot of the bed. The head of the bed's obviously at the other end. To the left was a sliding door closet. Everything hanging up, so it wasn't a walk-in, just a sliding door closet. And my room would have been on the other side of that. On the right was this gigantic window, huge window that went out into the backyard, that looked out in the backyard. And curtains were open, blinds up, so it was totally open. You could see right into the backyard. And I step into the room, and I realize there's a ton of light coming in there. And I shut the door behind me, and again, I'm still holding the handle. So I shut the door, then gently release the handle so it doesn't make any sound. And then I start to step to my parents' bed, and I look out the window, and I see a spaceship, a little flying saucer. Yep, that's why I gave you the disclaimer. So I see this flying saucer outside, and I'm instantly just freaked out. Jump back, and up against the wall. Like, what the hell is that? So, and the reason why I jumped back is the side of the window frame. Once I got back behind it, I couldn't see the thing anymore. And my thought process was, if I can't see it, it can't see me. And I literally thought that. I can remember thinking that. And so I'm sitting there like, okay, I can't see it, I can't see it, I can't see it. But how do I get to my parents' bed? I don't want to walk back out in the house because I felt something out there, and I don't want whatever it was to eat me or whatever. But I want to get to my parents' bed, but I can't. So now I realize that the base of my parents' window is about 1.5 to 2 feet off the ground. So I'm thinking, okay, I can drop to the ground, I can low crawl underneath my parents' bed. I watched a lot of Army movies, so it was reasonable. If I could stay low enough, it can't see me, I can't see it, so it should be fine. But I also wanted to make sure that what I was seeing was real. So what I do, take another peek. Nope, yep, still there. Wait a minute or two. Take another peek. Oh, yep, still there. So to kind of give you a description of what I was seeing, it was like your classic stereotypical flying saucer, which is why I'm not opposed to the idea of, maybe I dreamed it, hallucinated it, whatever. But imagine two symbols, band symbols, and just right on top of each other, protrusion on top, protrusion on bottom. And then, there was this little door on the bottom part of it with a ramp that was leading up to it. And it looked like the whole thing was being held up by 3, maybe 4 legs. At least 3 that I could see anyway. And the door on the bottom was big enough for maybe someone my size at the time. I was 5, so not very big. My mom was little too, so maybe she could have gotten in there. Dad definitely couldn't have. He's a big dude. As far as lights goes, there was lots of light, lots of color coming off of this thing. And it wasn't like the, I think about it now as like a cliche, kind of like a light panel all the way around where each panel lit up with a certain color. It wasn't like that, or that there was light bulbs. There wasn't any spot where there would be a physical screw-in light bulb. It was just like a metal disc. The whole thing was just metal, but it was glowing. Like it had this aura or something. It's probably really the only way I can think of to describe it. Like maybe an energy field. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it. But anyway, but that whatever aura, energy, whatever, had changing colors. What kind of went over the whole color spectrum. And so yeah, it was real colorful, and I wouldn't know how to draw that on paper, but yeah, lots of changing colors and just glowing. And so I was scared out of my mind, right? So I figure, okay, so I got to get down low enough so this thing can't see me. And because again, if I can't see it, it can't see me. So I get to the ground, and I want to crawl on my stomach, but I figured, I could probably still see my back. because my eyes are low and the back of my head's higher than my eyes. So even if I'm looking up at the thing, if I am even just below the line of sight, it can still see the top of my head or my back. So I flipped. Yeah, this is the thought process I had when I was 5. And like I said, I watched a lot of Army movies. So I flip over onto my back and I start scooting, this way. And I figured now my eyes are at the top. So if I can see it, then it can only see my eyes. But if I drop just below, I'm good. So I start crawling. And, a couple seconds into it, I want to make sure it's still there. So peek, yep, still there. Crawl, 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 crawl. Peek, yep, still there. Crawl, crawl, crawl. Peek, yep, still there. Then I make it under my parents' bed. So now I'm under my parents' bed. The room's still lit up with light. And I want to get into my parents' bed, but I don't want to wake them up either because I don't want them to freak out, whatever this is, and have there be a problem. And so I just decided to fall asleep under my parents' bed. Sometime in the night, later, I end up waking up. And my parents still weren't awake yet. And I look around the room and it's dark. So whatever it was was gone. So I just crawl my way back out underneath the bed and I look up over the ledge. And sure enough, it was gone. The backyard was dark. Nothing was there. That feeling that I had, that terror, gone. Just completely gone. So I end up untucking my parents' covers from the foot of the mattress and crawl up through them and get in between them. Sometime later, my parents wake up. They wake me up, and we're out having breakfast. My mom made bacon and eggs that morning, and it occurs to me, tell my parents what happened. So I do, and I recount everything I just told you about it. And they didn't believe me. I did not believe me. My dad never doubted anything I ever told him because of my ability for recall. But this was the one time he did not believe me. And so they kind of blew it off. And I eventually talked my dad into walking out in the backyard with me, checking out the spot that I saw, whatever I saw. And we walk out there, and sure enough, I find the spot, and there's nothing. No indentations in the grass, nothing like that. And my dad was, horticulturist, so we had the most beautiful grass on the planet, and nothing was wrong with it. No evidence that anyone had even been standing there, let alone land a spaceship in that spot. And so that, to my dad, was the end of it. There was no proof, nothing, just 5-year-old kid hallucinating. Until a few days later, when I was back outside playing in the backyard, and all of the grass in that spot died. Gone. And so I run in and I tell my dad, I'm like, hey Dad, come here. Look. So he comes running out and he sees the grass in that area, that little patch. It's brown. The rest of the grass is beautiful, dark green. This brown. And he didn't understand it. He couldn't for the life of him figure out why that happened, because everything else had been perfect. So he's checking everything under the sun that he can to figure out what happened to the grass and why it died after we were out there. And he never could figure that out. And just never could figure it out. He still refused to believe that it was my spaceship or anything from it that killed it. It's just a weird, random coincidence, but yeah, that's what happened. And I've told my parents that story for years, exactly the way I just told it to you, exactly the way. And they never believed me, until I was 17 years old. I was actually waiting for the Marine recruiter, Staff Sergeant Juan Carlos Farias, to come over to my dad's house to sign paperwork. And my mom was there, because she needed to be there, even though my parents were divorced at the time. And while we were there, the subject of this came up again. And I recounted that story to my parents again. And it was weird because it was after that time my my mom looked at my dad and said, "You know, Glenn, he's told the same story, word for word, detail for detail, since he was 5. Maybe he really did see something that day." And my dad's only response was, "Huh, maybe." And that was it. That was it. It was all the response I got. So I don't know. I don't know what it was. Like I said, could have been a hallucination, could have been a dream, could have been whatever. But yeah, that was that. Anyway, that's my story. If you liked it, click the like button. If you've got a similar story, please share it in the comments. I want to hear it, because it was crazy. You know, it's still burned into my head. So anyway, I really appreciate you watching. Some of you might realize that this is a remake of a previous video, and that is something I'm doing. You know, as new details emerge or new things come up in my brain, then I'm remaking some of these old videos to kind of expand what was on them. So yes, if you thought it was a remake, it is. So anyway, again, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for another one.